Hey everybody, welcome in back for episode 18. And this one we got a lot of comments from viewers and various social medias outlets to ask a couple questions about what we're going to do today. We're going to do cortisol. We're going to start off with cortisol, blood sugar, and insulin. There seems to be an epidemic among people in their 20s and their 30s ever since 2020, at the beginning of the whole thing we went through there. What do you think is causing it? And was there always an epidemic and mainstream media just didn't cover it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, these three issues
are connected?
Well, they can be, but they can also be parallel.
Okay.
They don't have to be connected, but they can be. Cortisol and insulin are two hormones that are very pro-inflammatory, and they're very different from each other. So let's attack some of these individually. But one of the reasons why these particular issues are literally epidemic is because of our lifestyle, number one. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Insulin is a blood sugar hormone. And elevated blood sugar is the result. And so you got a stressful life. You've got a terrible diet. You've got other factors such as sleep disturbances and other things that are also stressors and also pro-inflammatory. And so the end result of our lifestyle is basically issues with cortisol, insulin, and then as a result, elevated blood sugar.
And so how does just stress overall lifestyle causes high cortisol?
Yes, cortisol is secreted by your adrenal glands in response to stress.
Okay.
So, for example...
And that causes inflammation where? Everywhere?
Everywhere, systemically.
All throughout your body?
Yeah. Yeah, inflammation is not selective.
Okay.
Some of you may have heard of the term the fight or flight syndrome.
And that's what cortisol is, right?
And that's what cortisol does. It, along with adrenaline and other stress hormones, it's designed to prepare you to either fight, to defend yourself, or to run away.
Yeah. And
that's a good thing, because that's what's kind of saved the human species over the millennia. But when you instigate the fight or flight response and generate all these elevated hormones for no reason, in other words, it just happens because you're anxious, you're wound up, you're sleep deprived, etc. Then over time, you begin to not only get excess cortisol and adrenaline production from the adrenal glands, but you begin to exhaust the adrenal glands.
Yeah.
And that over time can create another series of problems. For example, if you overtax the adrenal glands long enough, you'll have the opposite problem. You won't have enough cortisol. And that creates another entire series of issues because you're heading for adrenal failure. And that's not a very good idea.
Yeah, and so taking a good full spectrum supplement and maybe even adding pantothenic acid and a vitamin B complex is a good place to start for that.
Oh yes, I would take a full spectrum formula, as those of you know who have followed me. I think that is the foundation and the simplest thing you can do for your overall wellness. But if you're a high stress person, or you're a high stress person in denial, I would take a stress supplement as well that combines the B complex with key herbal extracts, and that'd be the first step. And then I would start to look at little changes I can make in my lifestyle. You don't want to make huge changes overnight because that can be more stressful than what you had before.
Yeah.
But little things, step by step, can all be very helpful.
And so what about insulin and blood sugar? You kind of were on the beginning of something when you said that, what was it, vice versa, doctors should be testing blood sugar and not insulin, or insulin and not blood sugar?
Insulin and not blood sugar. And for decades, physicians
They were testing blood sugar.
never, ever never thought of testing insulin.
Yeah.
Because
So what should be tested is insulin, not blood sugar.
well, yeah, blood sugar is okay, but if you don't test insulin, blood sugar's readings are meaningless.
Got it.
And so what happened is that medicine looked at type 2 diabetes and even hypoglycemia to some extent as a disease of excess blood sugar or deficient blood sugar.
Yeah.
And it's not. Type 2 diabetes is a disease or disorder of excess insulin. The result of that is elevated blood sugar. It doesn't go the other way around. And only very recently have a select number of physicians figured out that if you don't test for insulin levels, you basically don't have any information at all. Yeah, you got elevated blood sugar, but why? What does that mean?
So you must test the insulin levels along with the blood sugar.
Yes, to get the whole picture.
To get the whole picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And taking a supplement like blood sugar support from Phoenix Nutritionals along with the full spectrum support is a good place to start on that.
Yes.
And so if people want to look into that, that's kind of a good place to start.
That formula, I developed that formula specifically to address excess insulin production.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's very eye-opening and very kind of new to me too. But high insulin and high cortisol can lead to all type of inflammation. And if you suspect that you have high of each one of those, you can get those blood tests done. They're very easy to do, and could be beneficial for you to know about what, if you have either one. We're going to talk about something that has been in the news lately that is kind of eye-opening to me. Sorbitol and sugar alcohols. Sorbitol's been in the news lately with some disturbing findings. First of all, if you don't know what that is, it's in practically every single thing that I've looked at in the grocery store. It's even in the baked goods in the bakery, and even in the proteins in the bakery at grocery stores like Vons and Ralph's here in California. Let's start off with the basic. What is sorbitol?
Sorbitol is a
sugar alcohol.
It's a sugar alcohol. It belongs to the family of sugar alcohol.
And sugar alcohols are deadly to dogs, right?
Yes, especially xylitol. They're fatal. Can be fatal.
Wow. But humans can eat it.
Which tells you something about whether we should be eating it or not. First of all, sugar alcohols are chemical contrivances that have been developed to replace sugar. And sugar
have they been developed to save money too?
Initially, it was the noble side was to cut down people's sugar consumption.
Okay.
But of course, sugar alcohols are very, very cheap to make, and they're very highly concentrated, and they can sweeten things immensely for a fraction of what it would take to use natural sugars.
Yeah.
Now you can identify a sugar alcohol on a label because it's funny words, and they all end in OL.
Tall.
Yeah,
or all.
Sorbitol, xylitol, mannitol, erythritol, they're all sugar alcohols, and they all have one thing in common. They can potentially give you severe gastric distress.
So if you want to avoid sugar, which one do you use?
I wouldn't use any of them personally.
Okay.
If I really want to avoid sugar, which I am quite fond of doing, I would use something, all right, and everybody get ready to gasp. I would use Splenda.
Oh, Splenda, yeah.
Now, everybody's got all of this evidence about Splenda and how terrible it is.
Well, there was a lot of misinformation about Splenda too, right?
Yeah, and I agree that it's not, it's not the greatest stuff in the world, but we're also not talking about eating it by the cupful either.
Yeah.
If you want to have a sweet beverage and you have blood sugar problems, it's probably better to have one, not 12, but one, to satisfy that taste. And as far as I'm concerned, as a chemist, Splenda or sucralose is a lot less harmful to the body in minute amounts, which is what you should be ingesting anyway, than the sugar alcohols.
Yeah.
Those can create tremendous gastrointestinal disturbances, chronic diarrhea. The list is just, and more is coming out, as you said. More is coming out all the time about these sugar alcohols, about how dangerous they are.
Well, it's been, in the news, and they're talking about how the kids are consuming so much of it. It really affects, I'm sure it affects insulin and blood sugar too.
That's a funny story, because you would think it would not, because it contains no sugar, contains no carbs.
But so your body thinks that.
That's right. When that sweet taste hits your tongue, it sends a message to your brain. And your brain doesn't know that there's fake sugar in the world.
Yeah.
And so it does its job and starts sending a message to your pancreas to increase insulin levels. So now you've increased insulin levels, but you've got no sugar.
Yeah.
And now you're in a hell of a mess, because now the insulin that's been secreted to excess has no job to do.
Yeah.
So it circulates around in the system, elevating inflammatory markers. It's just really wonderful.
Yeah. Let's talk about something even more fun than pure sugar. Drinking wine. Red wine, white wine. As you've all heard, you've probably heard that there are benefits, and of course there are negatives to drinking alcohol. What do you think is the deal with benefits and misinformation about wine on the internet?
Well, first of all, let me put in my official disclaimer every time I talk about booze. And that is, if you have an alcohol problem, and you have a drinking problem, this video is not for you.
Because you don't know moderation.
Because a lot of people who have a severe alcohol intolerance cannot moderate it.
Got it. Yeah.
That first sip, and they go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And if that's you, then don't do it. But for all the rest of us, wine, especially red wine, has an incredible long list of potential benefits. What are the negatives of wine? Well, number one, it contains alcohol. Number two, the biggest mistake with wine or any alcohol is a lack of moderation.
Yeah.
If one glass of wine has health benefits, that doesn't mean 12 have 12 times the benefit. It doesn't work that way. So the biggest negative to wine and any alcohol is a person's inability to be moderate. But the benefits, especially of red wine, not that I pick on white wine because I don't like it, but that's not the reason. The reason is that the beneficial effects of wine are in the skins of the grape. And you only get the skins of the grape in red wine. That's why white wine is white, because they remove the skins, which contain the pigment, before they process it.
Got it. And so what's the deal with the wine and the Mediterranean diet?
Well, they go hand in hand, because the Mediterranean diet is got lots of fruits and veggies. It's got an adequate amount of protein, but more importantly, the fats in the Mediterranean diet, which are rather high, by the way, are all monounsaturates for the most part. And those are the healthy fats.
And the refined carbs are low.
Very low.
So it's a perfect marriage of the red wine, the higher fat, and the
higher right fats.
The higher right fat and the balance.
Yeah, and in the skins of the grape, we find high amounts of antioxidants. And these antioxidants are protective against free radical damage internally inside your body. And the small amount of alcohol in a moderate amount of wine actually aids in the beneficial effects of the antioxidants. It's a nice little marriage. And if you consider the fact that people have been drinking wine, especially red wine, practically since we crawled out of a cave, it has quite a track record, let's put it that way. Yeah. It's not the latest craze. But again, folks, everything is in moderation. You realize there is nothing that you can ingest that is not harmful at the right dose. And that includes water.
Yeah.
You can, water's great, can't get enough water, gotta hydrate. You can drink water until it kills you because it can so dilute the electrolytes of your body that you go into cardiac arrest.
It was even those frat boys did it on that hazing incident. So
So come on.
Moderation.
Moderation, the nastiest, longest word in the English language.
Yeah, and you got to figure out what moderation, what it really is, not what you want it to be.
Yeah.
So here we go. Let's do a little lightning round on best immune support. Why is best immune support from Phoenix Nutritionals so superior over other immune support formulas?
Well, first of all, we developed it to be really complete.
Yeah.
We have put that together to where it supports the immune system from many different angles, not just one or two. It's what I call a broad spectrum support formula, and it addresses the immune function in a wide variety of ways, which obviously is superior to not doing that.
Yeah. And it's not just all vitamin C. It's everything else that has the right potency, the right ratio, and the totality. Why is immune support so effective?
Well, and I think it goes back to the first statement, is its broad spectrum nature. Many immune formulas either focus on herbal extracts or vitamins.
Yeah.
But we focus on both at the same time.
Combination.
Because I firmly believe that the more you can throw at something, the greater chance you have of hitting it. And so when it comes to your immune system, with our lifestyle and our diet, it oftentimes needs all the help it can get. Yeah. And that's was the thinking behind putting this formula together.
And so it's coming up on immune season, if you will. And those are, the time when people start to think about taking an immune formula. How does a good full spectrum multivitamin add to it and go hand in hand with a product like immune support from Phoenix Nutritionals?
Well, it has always been my philosophy that if you provide the body with the basic needs on a daily basis, and you provide those nutrients at an optimal level, not necessarily at a bare minimum level, but at an optimal level, you've already taken 10 steps forward in helping your overall well-being.
Yeah.
And then in the fall and winter months, if you start to combine that with a good immune support supplement, depending upon your life and lifestyle, the two go hand in hand in accomplishing the ultimate goal, which is to keep you well and to keep you as safe as possible during the heightened winter season.